Hey y'all, thanks so much for joining me in my kitchen today. We're going to be doing a gluten-free sugar cookie recipe just in time for Halloween. And I know everybody's like, oh, gluten-free this, gluten-free that. But I'm telling you, this recipe is the bomb. It's absolutely amazing. And we're going to start with 2 cups of all-purpose gluten-free flour. I prefer to use Bob's Red Mill because it has like a really nice texture. And then we're going to be using 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder. So then you're going to need a 1/2 teaspoon of the xanthan gum, which is basically like a bean. We use it as a binder in baking. 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I tend to use sea salt just because it adds, I don't know, just a little bit of an extra flavor. 3 tablespoons of sugar leaf sugar. And then we're going to be using 8 tablespoons of the granulated sugar, particularly the baker's sugar, because it's much finer than regular granulated sugar. So we're going to start off with 2 cups of the all-purpose gluten-free flour. Just chunk that right on up in there. And then we're going to throw 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of the xanthan gum, and then 1/4 of a teaspoon of the salt, preferably sea salt. And then we're going to kind of like mix these around just a little bit. And then we're going to break out this handy dandy little gadget right here. This is actually the first time I'm going to be using this one. Supposedly it's supposed to be awesome because it has the little jewel thing in there. So it's supposed to give you like a much finer grain, but you're definitely going to want to use one of these, some sort of sifter, to really mix all of these ingredients thoroughly, because if you don't, you're going to have really sad cookies. So let's start off by doing this. So I'm going to make a bit of a mess, so excuse me. I'm a messy cook. So I'm going to get some of this. Throw that in there. Rest of that in there. All right. And then see how it's a lot finer now coming out. And it's just really mixing all these ingredients together. Whew. Man, I'm going to have a real good grip after getting done with this. All right, finally get done. All right, so now that we have most of our dry ingredients done, all right, so now what you're going to want to do is move on to your wet ingredients. So I'm going to put this off to the side. I'm going to grab my big old bowl. Now this is when things get serious, okay? So we're going to take 8 tablespoons of butter. Now let me tell you something. There is a difference in butter. I don't care what nobody says. hold up, I gotta show this to you. All right, this butter is the bomb. It is Irish churned butter. This one's in particular is the reduced fat. It has 8 grams instead of 11, so I mean, there's a little bit of guilt, but not a lot. But this is my favorite butter, and that's what's in here. Enough plugging that. So I'm just gonna kind of like, whisk my soft butter around and then pour 8 tablespoons. 8 tablespoons of butter. Yep, you need all 8. So get that in there. Put that in there. And then you're going to want 1 egg. You only need 1 egg. No more, no less. Crack that sucker on up in there. Toss that in your dirty bowl. Now we're going to move on to the 3 tablespoons of the sugar by Sugar Leaf. Really awesome. This is going to save you a little bit of sugar, but still give you that sweetness that you need. Then 8 tablespoons of granulated sugar. The baker's sugar. It's going to say that on the container. It's much finer than regular granulated sugar. Toss that on up in there. And then you're going to want to whip. So you're going to want like a nice smooth texture, kind of like that. And then you're going to slowly, and I mean slowly, fold your dry ingredients into your wet ingredients. So just so we can get to our folding tools, we're going to put the whisk away and grab a spatch. So I'm just going to throw a little bit in there like this. And then we're going to fold this in first. Because what's going to happen is it's going to slowly start getting thick. Folding all of this in here. And oh, before we forget, vanilla. I almost forgot this sucker. You know, half a teaspoon of vanilla. So that's fine because we're not quite done putting in all the dry ingredients. So we're just going to go ahead and fold the vanilla in. Alright, let's add some more of the dry ingredients, just the last little bit. Let's go ahead and throw that on in there. Now, this should start getting a little bit of a stiffer consistency. And at some point, you're going to have to get in there, like my mom and grandma always used to say, you just get in there with your hands, which is right about here. So then you're just going to roll it together like this. One of the things that I love to do is take a little bit of flour and throw it down before I put the dough down so that way it doesn't stick to your surface. And you can do this straight on the countertop or with a little silicone sheet. It doesn't really matter. I used to use tin foil before, you know, back in the day before they come out with this. So then we're going to grab the dough, move this sucker out of the way. So what you're going to do is you're going to knead the dough, kind of roll it around in the flour. And then make a little cylinder, nice and easy. Grab a piece of wax paper like so and throw this in there. Roll it up real quick. And then you're going to want to put this in the refrigerator. I typically like to do this type of recipe the day before, so that way it's all ready to go. So now that our dough is out of the refrigerator, you can tell it has kind of a stiff texture to it, so which makes it perfect for rolling out and cutting the cookies. And now we get to have our fun with this guy right here, one of my favorite kitchen tools. So I typically like to separate the dough into two parts. Makes it a little bit easier for me to work with it. And I like to have some powdered sugar off to the side because I typically like to put my cookie cutter in that before I cut the cookies. So I'll just sprinkle a little of this on the corner here. So that way it's all ready for me when I get ready for it. So here's how my Halloween cookies turned out. I really love the zombie because I have a little homage to Plants vs. Zombie going on here. So you will have to tweet me at CheekyBama and let me know how your Halloween cookies turned out. Thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen. See you guys next time. Please subscribe to Kabama TV to stay up to date on all of our upcoming reviews. Thank you for watching.